Hello everyone, it's January 7th, 2014, it's Tuesday, it's Harp Tuesday, the very first Harp Tuesday of the year, and hope you had a wonderful 2013. Best wishes for 2014. I have some interesting projects coming up and I'll be letting you know about them, but for now, of course, kind of on the theme of New Year's resolutions, I do want to briefly plug my Skype harp lessons. If you feel like you want some extra coaching on a particular piece or help with a particular technique or even regular lessons, I do teach all over the world via Skype. So send me an email if that's something that you'd like to explore. And kind of keeping on this New Year's resolution theme, I guess, I thought I would talk about an exercise. I've been having fun recently playing around with creating some simple exercises, and this is an exercise that kind of has a dual purpose. It's both a sort of an exercise for being aware of chords and chord shapes, and also for jumping, so that we get practice, for example, with scales of connecting, right? And that's one of the hard things. Certainly something that one needs practice on, and often fast pieces will involve a lot of connected stuff because that's the way to, by connecting it makes it easier to play faster. But also sometimes we'll have to jump around. So this exercise is designed to give you a little bit of practice of that. So there should be a link right up here, I guess, for a PDF download of the exercise. And I'm not actually using the music, but let me show you briefly what it looks like. If I can find it here somewhere. Here we are. Chord jumping exercise. So this is a preliminary copy. The copy you should be able to download, I think, will have the chords on it instead of I just wrote them in here. But so it's the actual notes are fairly easy. We start by working on a C chord, and we're just playing two-note chords. We're just using 1 and 2 for all these chords. So we're going up and down a C chord. And of course, with any chord, it's made up of, any typical major chord is made up of 3 separate notes. So a C chord is C, E, and G. And here, we're playing 2 of those. We're playing another 2 of them. We're always playing 1 of those, 2 of those 3 notes. And you can see this pattern of how we play and we're going up. So now our thumb played that E, and now 2 is going to go to that E. Thumb's going to get this G. 2 is always going to the note that the thumb just played. And we're going down, so now the thumb is going to go to where 2 just played, to where 2 just played, and to where 2 just played. Or left hand. Of course, harder, bigger, thicker strings, a little more unwieldy, but so I guess I've always found thinking in chords fairly straight. It came to me easily, but I know some harpists who have a hard time thinking in chords. And I would imagine that if you played, say, the flute, which is a single note instrument, you're only playing 1 note at a time, it would be really hard to sort of think about chords because you never play them. So on the harp, they make a lot of sense, and we can kind of think about the shape too, that here's this C chord shape, and we're just kind of moving along on it. So yes, we go here, we're playing a third and another third, and here it's a fourth, but that's all just part of that broader C chord. So we do 2 of those, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and now we switch to a G chord, and we're not starting with the root. We're not starting with 2 on G. We're starting here on the B, and here's the D. F chord. And back to a C. And done. And one of the things to be aware of with these chords is that the name of the chord doesn't necessarily correspond with the, say, the bottom note. Like when we start, we're playing a C chord and our bottom note is a C. But when we start the G chord section, the bottom note is a B. And in fact, this first chord that we play in that G section doesn't even have a G in it. It's just a B and a D. So just being aware of the fact that what makes the reason we name a chord like that this is part of a G chord, that this is a G chord, is because of the, it's part of those three notes that make up a G chord. And this F chord, again, 2 is not starting on the F. The thumb is in this case, but what makes an F chord is not where that F happens to be, right? That all of these are part of an F chord, even the one that doesn't even have an F in it. So just kind of thinking about the chord structure there and trying to be aware of that. And then, of course, the other thing is the jumping, the moving around of this, right, where we're coming off. So one of the things you can think about here, especially when you're playing it slowly, is wrist movement. And that's what I call that movement when you're hinging at the wrist. But it's maybe deceptive to call it wrist movement because your wrist isn't moving, right? The wrist is staying pretty static. It's just that we're hinging at the wrist to help get up and away from the string. So again, it's like if I could grab my hand here, I wouldn't want to, and I could still have that wrist movement going on, getting me up and away and back down, so that you can think about that to help get you away from the string and then back. And then, because if we stay right here, it becomes more awkward to get onto these next strings, whereas if we can think about getting away from them a little bit, it's easier to get to the next chord. And then also just thinking about the movement, and we're going up, either a third or a fourth at a time, so it's not like we have to jump way up to here, but just kind of being aware of the hand does, especially here when we get that fourth, we got to be moving up and thinking about parallel movement, so that if the elbow was resting on a shelf, it's shifting up this shelf. In other words, that we don't drop the elbow and move the hand up, that we try to maintain this same arm position, or left hand, maintaining a similar arm position as we move, and similar hand positions, so that everything is just a matter of shifting up and down, kind of with a whole arm. And so with this exercise, you can practice it right hand, you can practice it left hand, you can practice them together. And then, do that as long as you want. And then there's a part 2, which is just kind of a fun part and plays around a little bit with the brain. I think it can be a little interesting little exercise where, for example, the right hand's doing this pattern, which we've hopefully gotten accustomed to, and the left hand in the C chord section is playing C's on the ands. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So that's kind of fun, right? That trading back and forth, or what is it? that just plays around a little bit, as I say, with the brain sometimes, and also gives you a reminder that this is all C chord. These are all C chords, or these are all G chords, or these are all F chords. So just some things to play around with. And of course, the final thing one could do, which I didn't write down, but is to think about leaps of a bigger distance. Where you could jump up an octave. So play a chord, two-note chord, and jump up the octave to play it, and back. Next one, getting a chance to do some of those bigger jumps. And one of the keys with jumps is to be able to place and play quite smoothly. So in other words, if we have to go if it takes us a moment after placing to play, that just is going to slow us down. Whereas if we can find and play at the same time, that's just going to speed everything up, right? So trying to be, if we could just go, just touch the strings, it would be much faster, right? So trying to get that same touch and play, touch and play, touch and play feeling. And in terms of big jumps, one of the exercises I've talked about in some pieces that have those is, if you're doing some really big jumps where you're trying to do it quite quickly, is to, so say we're just going up to here, play this, relax completely, look where you're going, and then jump up and try to play it. So we relax, we kind of get set, we get psyched up, and then zoom up and play it. Because, well, I'll talk about the inverse, and then we'll talk about why we do that. So relax, find and play. Or we're gonna check where we're going. We're gonna play and jump up there, but not play up here yet, and then relax. So try to find this as quickly as possible, but then just really relax. Make sure everything is as relaxed as possible, and then you get to play. So that and the reason for that is to try to build in some relaxation, because when you're trying to go, do some sort of big, it's easy to have some muscle tension creep in, right? That, and some of it, we just have to move fast. We have to activate some muscles, but the more relaxation that you can feel when you're doing that, so only the necessary muscles are working, the better. So just a little trick that I know I find helpful in terms of building speed with a big jump. Anyway, hope that was useful. And once again, Happy New Year and all the best for this year. And I will see you in a couple weeks' time. Cheers.